I'm Jane Wolfe. I'm a reading buddy at Disney Elementary. RSVP is Retired Senior Volunteer Program, and it's for anyone 55 or older who would like to volunteer in the local schools to tutor children in grades K through 3 in literacy. And the way our grant is written is it needs to be the lower grades, and that's actually where you make the greater difference. So, Retired Senior Volunteer Program. I started in 2011, and so I've been a reading buddy for 6 years now. Okay. I have worked with 1 to 3 children a year since I started being a reading buddy. So I think it's somewhere between 14 to 16 children I've done now. I have worked with 1 to 2 teachers a year. So it depends on the teacher's needs and how comfortable the teacher is with me. My heart's been touched a lot since I've become a reading buddy. It's been touched on a professional level. I'm a retired teacher, and I didn't realize the void that would be created when I retired. I was an early childhood specialist, and I found that I just had a big hole once I retired. So on a professional level, it's helped fill that hole. But on a personal level, seeing children grow, working with teachers who every moment is spoken for, and so supporting the teachers, and then working with the lowest children is just so satisfying. And the more satisfying it is, the more you are willing to invest. So it's really a lovely two-way street. A couple of years ago, had a lovely little boy, good nutrition, good medical care, well prepared for school, but developmentally, he was a true 6-year-old. His fine motor skills weren't what we would want a 6-year-old to be now. I have seen over the years of teaching, I taught for 36 years, what our expectations are for kindergarten first graders has really shifted. So what was very normal for a first grader in 1970 is very different from the first grader that we want in the year 2017. And this little guy was a lovely little guy, good intellect, but fine motor, attention span, seeing detail in print. He wasn't quite what we needed him to be, but I worked with him twice a week, and he loved what we did. We started at his comfort level, and little by little in increments upped the ante. And by the end of our tutoring in May, he was reading at first grade level. And then I saw him and his teacher and even his parents in the years after that. And by third grade, he was tested into the gifted program. So that's pretty lovely because you saw the intellect was there. It was just some of those fine motor skills and those other essential skills that make everything click together. So that was pretty cool. I do several, I kind of break it down. I see the children for 30 minutes. And the first thing we do is write. We write any words they might know, any new words, any old words. I use a dry erase pen and a tablet, and they write any words. It could be color words, it could be mom, dad, go, is. And then we go into parts of language. We might work on ing. We might work on tricky Y like in baby or candy. We work on the vowel sounds, short and long vowel sounds. If they have any tangles with directionality like P's, B's, D's, we work on that. And then we read 2 old books that are familiar to them, and we read 2 new books that are just a little bit harder than the familiar books. And if we have time, we finish with writing a sentence about the book he liked the most that day, and we usually share a pen. He does what he's able, and I support him when he needs it. And 30 minutes goes really fast, and the kids really like it. So that's one thing that's really enjoyable for me. They come eagerly, and they leave pretty pleased with themselves. Yeah. I thought it was critical in the beginning for him to know what he already had mastery over and what he could already do well, what letters and letter sounds he already had mastery over. And then we would use that as a scaffolding to get to the new things that were tricking him or that he had difficulty with. So always going back to what he had mastery over and praising him for that. And when we would read books, I rarely interrupted his reading. Didn't want to interrupt, and getting my finger in there, that is a real turnoff to little kids. So I waited till he had finished a page or the story altogether, and I'd say, what did you do well in that story? And he could always articulate something he did, and I said, what tricked you? And we'd go back to something that tricked him. And that kind of gave him power and control over that, and it wasn't me pouncing on errors. And when children need a little extra support, you're really working with their ego and their self-confidence as well. Children are very hard on themselves, and they measure themselves against others pretty early on. So you really need to support that confidence and enable what they already do well. So that's kind of what I go with.
Yeah.
And nobody's going to want me to come to the door if all I do is point out what they did wrong. So when I open that door to pick up a child, the happiest thing is to see that smile. So that's what you go for. One thing I missed about leaving the school district where I taught and coming to Missouri, because I missed that contact, whether it was in the hallways of schools or whether it was at Walmart. So now that I've been here a number of years, I do run into the kids and their parents, and it just makes my heart happy, because the parents are appreciative and the kids are too. And they know that you've done something good for them. And I think as long as you stay humble and you respect the responsibility you're taking on, then it's a win-win for everybody. But it is really heartwarming to run into the kids. And in the hallways, when I go back to Disney, I think just about every day I get a hug from somebody. Or it might have been that kid that wanted to come and read with me and didn't get to. So it's pretty, being an RSVP reading buddy is pretty heartwarming. You get a lot more than you give, I think. It really has helped fill that void. And seeing the difference in a child from October through April or May, their confidence, their skill level. And I think most of all, seeing their skill level grow to a point where they can enable themselves to increase their own reading. You've given them the tools and the confidence then to be self-perpetuating in that growing skill level. And for a first grader, I prefer to work with first graders. The skills are quite new, and if they don't use them, they can lose them. And so seeing that blossom, that process opening and becoming secure is quite a lovely thing. So it's a pretty nice, I just can't say enough about volunteering in a literacy area. It's just wonderful gratification, really is. If someone were pondering becoming a volunteer, I would really encourage them to do it. And I would encourage them to do it from the point of view of they're really touching the future. If you want to make a difference, help young children, because you're really planting the seeds for tomorrow. And sometimes you don't always get to see what those seeds have grown into. But further down the line, everybody has a story about elementary school. And if you have the opportunity to make a positive interaction with a child who is stumbling in some way, what a gift you are being given to make a difference in tomorrow, make a difference in how a child perceives themselves and their skills. I just think it's a wonderful gift. So I would strongly encourage anybody who has thought about it, and I would also like to plant seeds in those who have not thought about it, and perhaps they will come around and want to raise their hand and do it.